Awesome. All right, Once Upon a Zeppelin. So this one's super, super cool. We start out, you guys remember Iron Will from the assertive guy, and he was giving those seminars, coolest guy ever. Well, those kind of faded away, right? And so he's looking for sort of a new way to grow, a new way to just do more with his life and achieve more, right? And so he decides that he's going to start like this cruise ship. And so he decides that he's going to go and start this cruise ship company. And with this cruise ship, basically, like, he goes to Canada a lot, and everybody's always around there. They're happy, they're popular, and they're excited to go out and have a huge, huge, huge party. So he gets this giant cruise ship, and he wants to have a special, a unique selling proposition, right? Like something that makes him stand out. And so what he does is he goes and he sends letters to Twilight and the main six, basically saying, they've won a free cruise and it's going to be the best cruise ever, and it's totally free. And so they're like, oh, cool, free cruise. So they come over to go on their free cruise. And basically what Iron Will did is he sort of marketed the cruise and sold the cruise as, a princess cruise, come have a cruise with the princess. And so it's just this idea of there's just not really free lunch. Because she's the main attraction for the entire cruise. And so when she gets there, right, she has a ton of attention from basically everybody, because everyone scheduled their cruise so that they could see her, right? And so it's crazy, right? So she goes into this new situation, and she's conflicted, right? Because, she wants her friends and her family who come along to have fun on this cruise and to enjoy themselves. Yet at the same time, she's being bombarded all the time, right? And they even have competitions where whoever wins a bingo tournament, whoever wins something special, will get to spend time with Twilight. And they're basically giving away her time, which is just ridiculous, right? Because remember, time is your most valuable asset. And for someone to have control of your time, it's bogus, right? And so she has a decision to make. Her decision, she can either get rid of the pain, right, and feel better about herself and leave the cruise and just leave with her friends and family. And then in the long term, what's that going to mean? It's going to mean her family's going to have less fun. Or she can embrace the pain, take a short-term loss, be a little bit more upset, but then have everybody that she knows have a terrific time. And so it's this tough decision where, she's got to sort of either self-sacrifice and let everybody win, or, self-indulge, and it kind of hurts everybody, right? And so she makes the right decision, she does the right thing, and she self-sacrifices, right? And she just stays on the cruise and she says, you know what, we'll live with it, it's okay. I'll befriend everybody, smile, wave, and just connect with them in any way possible. Because she cares more about her friends, she cares more about their entertainment, she cares more about her family than she does just a little bit of her time, which is super nice, and it really strengthens these relationships, right, are so much stronger, and with her family and everyone else, because she put in her time, she put in her energy, everything she has, she's dedicating to her family because she cares about them. And this shows that, right, is that she's sticking with them. And when you stick with people, especially through it's this idea that your true friends are the ones that stick with you through the tough situations. And that's really exactly what they're going through. It's a tough situation, and they're all sticking together, right, because they have to. And they're their only family. They're the only people that they have to turn to and to be with. And so that's sort of why they have to stick together. And they do, which is the coolest thing ever. So they do an amazing job there. And as this cruise goes on, there's one thing that Twilight wanted to see on this whole cruise, and it's this huge array of shooting stars. They have this huge constellation that's come, and it'll dangle and bedazzle the whole world, and it's supposed to be the coolest thing ever. And so she wants to see that from the cruise ship, which is totally reasonable and a cool thing to do. And so they get to the point in their journey where they, come and it's nighttime and all these stars are coming. This is exactly what Twilight wanted to see. Yet, she is unable to join the cruise deck and to come with her family and her friends. She cannot come out there to see them with them because she's stuck inside some freaking bingo tournament, which is just ridiculous. And so she put up with Iron Will's crap for so long, and she let him, you basically use her to sell a cruise, and it was just the stupidest thing ever. And yet, the one thing she wanted, the one thing that she desired, she's cut off from, and she's unable to do, and it just sucks. And she's enraged by this, right? She sees all the stars, they all pass, all of her friends see them, and then she walks outside and they say it's all gone. And that's the tipping point. That's the point where she realizes that this is total BS, total crap. That she's going to be, used as a person, right? This guy's basically abusing a fake relationship with her to profit, which is just bogus, right? Your goal, right, is not to directly use relationships or connections, and then unethically leverage them to create profits, right? You want to work together. You want to build a team. You want to collaborate. And that's the opposite of what happens here. You just forces her into it. And remember, you cannot force people into things. It has to be of their own desire, or it just will not last long term. If he negotiated this with her and made it last long term, maybe he could have done a princess cruise every year or something. But what happens here is Twilight gets pissed. She goes to Iron Will. She says she's done. She can't believe it. She wants out. And after a little bit of arguing, which never really gets anywhere, because remember, arguing is really, really, really bad, Iron Will steps up. He walks out of his room, walks out of the ship, goes over to the side of the ship, jumps overboard, and screams, "No refunds!" And then he parachutes away. So he has this huge event. He makes a one-time profit, a huge one-time profit from it. Yet, if he just focused on establishing that foundation, if he just focused on building this really, really, really strong base with Twilight, he could have had this huge, huge, huge empire of princess cruises in the future. Yet he cuts this off and he destroys this possibility because he doesn't focus on that long-term relationship. He takes the easy route, and the easy route for him is not asking her at the beginning. And so he doesn't ask her, and he gets a short-time profit, right? Short-term profit. But he loses all this potential long-term money. When if he just took the challenge to ask her and negotiate with her and convince her to actually do it, it might have taken a little bit more time at the beginning. Yet in the long term, it'd be worth so much more. Because he could do this over and over and over and over again instead of just this one-time thing where he just leaves everybody and destroys his reputation, destroys basically everything he has, right? So he runs away and it just ends. And that's that. But there's one more lesson that is super, super important, and I want to finish it up on this one. You see, after all this happens and they're going back home, Twilight's still kind of sad, right? Because she missed the huge star event. And so what Shining Armor and Cadence and Flurry Heart and the main six, what their friends do and what her family does is the night before they're done, they all come out on the deck and they dress up as stars and they dress up as these constellations, and they invite Twilight out to the deck. And she comes out to the deck and she sees her friends dressed up in these ridiculous costumes. And they put on this, dancing thing where they all just pretend to be the stars, and they have this huge thing for her. They put all their effort, their energy, their time, their dedication, their passion, themselves into this one event for Twilight, just for her, because they care about her, and she just loves it. She snaps. It's so impactful for her because she realizes that this physical thing, this seeing this huge event go on, or seeing these stars cross, or having this physical image in her mind of this, star gazing, is worth so little compared to her family, and compared to seeing her friends do the exact same thing, because when they do it right, it's representative of their relationships to her and their connections, and so she feels such an close, tense bond with them. That she just basically melts away because it's such a nice gesture for them to do, and she just freaking loves it. And so, it all ends really, really well because they're able to focus on being together and having this group mentality that together they're so much stronger than they could ever be alone. And it shows in the way that they handle their problems by focusing, not on the negative and not saying, "Oh, well, that sucks that you missed it," but instead constructively problem solving and saying, "How can we move on to the next step? How can we help her? How can we get her back? How can we solve this problem?" And they do it as a team, right? Because when the team has a goal, when the group has a goal, it is so much easier to accomplish than an individual basis. And so it just changes everything, and their output is so huge, and because of that, their connection with Twilight, for all of them, only strengthens, and it's just so deep, and it's the power of doing something compassionate, doing something nice, because once you start to build these relationships, once you start to build these bonds, it's all about maintenance, right? It's all about growth, it's all about continued friendship, and for them, like, the best way to do that is to absolutely crush it with this insane act of generosity and kindness, which is super nice. Okay, awesome. Okay, secrets and pies. Okay, so Pinkie Pie, she really likes to make cakes, right? And so she makes Rainbow Dash like cakes all the time. And Rainbow Dash, gives them the Rainbow Dash, and it makes her super happy to make these cakes and to give them to Rainbow. And one day they're at like the Wonderbolts Center, and they're like in the sky, and Pinkie comes to give Rainbow a cake, and so Rainbow, she gives it to her, gives her the pie, and then she has to go off with the Wonderbolts and do like flight practice and stuff like that, and so she doesn't really get a chance to eat it, and so Pinkie's a little upset, she's a little confused, she's like, why didn't she eat my pie? And so she comes through, so after that they go home, and Rainbow's at her house, right? And Pinkie comes over and she gives her another pie, right? And Rainbow's like, oh, thanks so much, She's trying to like fuel her friend, because her friend loves to bake. Her friend loves to make these pies, and it makes her so happy to share them with others, right? And so, like, if somebody's doing something and it makes them ridiculously happy, and it's not hurting anybody, right? It's like a constructive thing for everyone. They're like, why would you take that away from them, right? Like, why would you, crush their emotions and stop them from being happy? Especially if it's like only, really benefiting her. It's strengthening her baking skills, and it's not a huge deal. And so Rainbow gets this pie, and like she doesn't really want to eat it. Like, you got to remember, like, she's like, one of the top athletes on the planet, and so like she's got to sort of keep her physique up, and she can't just eat like 7 pies a day. And so Pinkie like turns around for a moment, she blinks, and Rainbow kind of throws her pie over into like this tube, and it goes to Tank, the turtle, right? And so Tank eats it out of sight, and she's none the wiser. But Pinkie's like upset because she doesn't think that Rainbow's eating her pies, and she starts to get suspicious. She starts to get sad, right? Because to her, it's like this betrayal, right? This idea that she's doing all this work over and over, just constantly making Rainbow tons and tons of pies, and to think that she's not enjoying them, or she's not appreciating them, or she's not eating them, it just crushes her, right? And it destroys like who she is, because she really cares about her friends, and she loves to see them be happy. And so like, even though Rainbow Dash like fakes it, and she's like, oh, that was so good, thanks so much, it's not as genuine, right? Remember this idea of genuine authenticity versus just bogus, right? And so like, this is where Rainbow Dash is right now, and like, she could be genuine, but like, she doesn't really want to eat all these pies, right? But it makes her so happy to have this connection, and yet it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because she's on the wrong side of the fence. She is freaking bogus, and you cannot stay in this bogus area for long. It just does not work. There's always this natural tendency to move back to genuine, truth, transparency, right? Like, this is transparency, and this is lies. And you just cannot live your life lying. It just will not work. You've got to move to radical transparency. You have to live constantly in a state of complete and total transparency. And so she is like living in the wrong state. And she's doing it sort of for the right reasons. But, even if you rob the bank for the right reasons, or even if you steal the bread for the right reasons, like, it's still a wrong thing to do. And so it sucks, but like, she can not keep doing this. And so Pinkie, she sort of starts to elevate, right? She starts to get deeper and deeper. And she's upset, right? Because she wants Rainbow Dash to appreciate her work, and she really wants to like see her eat her pies, right? And so she gets this huge party together in celebration of Rainbow, and she gets like the whole town there. and it's like super exciting. And she's got this huge table of desserts and pies and all this great stuff. And it's like the coolest thing ever. Tons and tons and tons of baked goods, and all made by Pinky for Rainbow Dash. And so they embrace each other at this party, and this is kind of where this picture is from. She spent basically like the whole night baking, constantly setting up this ginormous party just for Rainbow Dash. And it shows, right, like she cares so much about her friends and about her friends' opinions of her and how her friends appreciate her work, that she'll put on all this effort on her own part, right? Like she doesn't get any reward from this, but she puts in the effort. Why? She puts in the effort because this relationship between her and Rainbow Dash is so strong, so developed, and so deep that she's willing to do tons and tons and tons of work to maintain it and to grow it and to succeed with it. And that's like the power, right? Is once you start to develop these relationships and you really have like these intimate connections, these experiences and these shared successes with others, all of a sudden, like spending an entire day of your life just to do something for them, it doesn't seem as big anymore. And so you start to have this really powerful feedback where like you do awesome things for them and they do awesome things for you, and then the group comes together and they do awesome things together. And it's just so huge, so powerful, all because, you know, these guys, they're all connected, right? And so at this party, Rainbow Dash like still doesn't really want to eat this pie that much. And she's not willing to take, you know, the short-term loss of just, you know, sucking it up and eating the pie for the long-term gain of Pinky being happy. She just won't do it. And that's like her mistake, right? And it sucks, but she just won't take this short-term loss and just eat the freaking pie. And so as Pinky's like staring her down and saying, "Eat this pie," and she looks her right in the eye, Rainbow waits and waits and waits for her to blink. And then, like, when she blinks, she, like, throws the pie in the air. And then, like, when she opens her eyes, she's like, what a tasty pie. Yum, yum, yum. Like, she pretended she ate it. And Pinky is, like, vividly upset. And then what happens is, you know, the pie, she throws it in the air, and it falls right on Pinky's head. And it's, like, splatters all over her. And at this point, like, that's the trigger for her. That's the point where she is done with all this crap, and she can't believe, you know, the lies that she's been fed, right? Like, this bogus it's running its end, and it's destroying the connections, destroying the relationship, and it just sucks. And so she goes home, and she's like, Pinky is so sad and so destroyed and so distraught because she thinks that Rainbow hates her pies because she wasn't transparent. And so she goes home, and she's like in her room crying, and everyone feels so bad for her. And so the main six, you know, they come together, and they're like, Rainbow, you kind of have to right this wrong. You have to make her feel better. And so what she does is she realizes, you know what, maybe I do need to be transparent. Maybe I do need to be genuine. Maybe I do need to have this short-term loss and make a sacrifice of myself for the betterment of this relationship to make her feel better. And so she goes out in front of Pinky's house, and she starts declaring that she's so sorry. And she adamantly apologizes. And then she gets she makes this ginormous pie, like full of trash. And it's just like the most disgusting thing. It's so gross. And then as she's standing outside next to this trash pie, Pinky's looking out the window, right? Looking out the window. And Rainbow Dash is apologizing, and she's so sad, and she's just really trying to win her friend back. And she says that she will eat this disgusting huge pie just to make it up to her. And she starts to like pretend to sort of like, you know, go into that trash pie. And then Pinky's like, no, don't do it. That's freaking gross. Stop. And she comes downstairs, and they come together. And Rainbow Dash comes clean. She's like, look, it's just a lot of pie, man. I can't really eat all this pie. You're kind of crazy. And Pinky's like, okay, I understand. And because they were truthful, because they were transparent, all of a sudden, you know, all the problems, they were just out like that. They were gone because they were in the same state, and they had this connected and complete mental clarity with one another. And they come back together, They have this reunite, like they reunite, and this is the nicest thing ever, right? And she realizes, like, in the future, she can't really make her all these pies. And so in the long term, they have this massive, like, epiphany, and it's really great for both of them, because now Pinky's not going to be wasting time making tons of pies that Rainbow Dash is just going to feed to her pet. And then Rainbow Dash is all going to have a much deeper connection with Pinky, because now they have this complete and total understanding of one another, their feelings, their passions, and their thoughts. And so it's so powerful, and it would have avoided a whole lot. Like, all you have to do, either at stage 1 or stage 0, right? And at the beginning, it would have been super easy just to tell the truth. She just told the truth right here and said, look, I don't really like all these pies. It would have been easy, but she didn't, right? So it elevated, and it got to the point where she had to have this, like, ginormous pie in front of her, garbage pie, and pretend to eat it. And so the longer that you wait to sort of embrace the problems and just freaking take action, the amount of action that you have to take, it significantly increases, because, like, the lies develop, and is, like, the more you're not transparent, the harder it gets to actually fix the underlying problem. So you want to, like, as fast as possible, expose the problem and take care of it together as a group and move on and just freaking survive and thrive. So super cool stuff. Hope it makes a ton of sense. It's really powerful stuff, and you can apply it now, which is the coolest thing. Awesome, uncommon bond. So in this one, we've got Starlight and Sunburst. Remember, Sunburst is like her old childhood friend. And so Starlight, she's in the castle with Twilight, and they're just kind of living together, having fun. And she's got Twilight. And one day they decide to invite, Sunburst over. So Sunburst comes over, and they're going to have, like, this cool, huge party for, like, a week in Ponyville, which is, like, fun stuff, right? And so they all have these really nice connections. And, Starlight, she kind of introduces Twilight to Sunburst, and so she sort of facilitates that friendship, right, and brings them together, which is, like, the coolest thing ever. So it all comes from her. And so they come together, they have this cool, awesome group, and they decide to start playing, one of their favorite games when they were with Starlight and Sunburst. When they're kids, they love to play this thing called Dragon Pit, so just this board game. So they start playing this board game, they're just having fun, doing their thing. And Sunburst starts to get really close to Twilight, and they come together really well, and they just have an amazing time together, which is, like, the coolest thing ever, right? And so as they're coming super close to one another, and they're having, like, the best time ever with each other, Starlight starts to feel a little bit alienated, a little bit left out, right? Because to her, as Sunburst bonds with Twilight, he's distancing himself from her, right, and not paying as much attention to her. And so instead of, like, looking at the positive of, oh, cool, my friends are getting together really well, and they have a lot in common, and they feel very comfortable with one another, she's focusing instead on this idea of, like, competition, and that there's, like, a limited supply of friendship, a limited amount of connections they can have with one another, which is, like, the wrong mentality, right? Because remember, there's, like, an abundance of love, an abundance of friendship, an abundance of, like, everything. And yet she feels left out because they just didn't do a great job of involving her. And so because she feels just a little bit left out, she's sad, right? And so as Sunburst sort of goes to sleep and moves on, she feels like, he's kind of distancing himself from her, when in reality, all he's doing, right, is making new friends. You got to remember, like, with make new friends but keep discord. This idea that, you can make new friends and still have the old friends, right? It's not a huge deal. And as you expand your sphere of influence, as you expand your social group, as you expand your mastermind, it is so much more powerful. All because what? All because they come together and have an amazing time as a team. So next day, right, Sunburst goes out and he's trying to figure out, more people to meet, more friends, and he finds Trixie, right? And so remember, like, Trixie is, like, Starlight's bestie, right? And so they get along really well, just because they have this pre-existing connection that comes from them knowing Starlight. And so because of that, they form a connection really quickly, and they start to have fun with magic, have fun with cards, and just, like, do cool things together, right? Because they're into sort of the same things as they sort of, mesh. And so it's this idea that he's connecting with more people, and he's making new friends, he's winning new friends, and he's influencing people, and he's connecting with the community around him, right? All because, what? Because he cares, and also because it literally, like, enriches his life day by day to have these new connections and to have these new friends. It makes his whole life better, his whole life happier, which is, like, the coolest thing ever for him, right? So after that, after they have fun, Starlight, she comes in, she's like, hey, go do something else, and so he goes, and Sunburst goes to do something else. because he wants to, keep growing, keep expanding, and also Trixie's got stuff to do. So he finds Maud, and then Maud's like in this rock cave looking at rocks, and as she's looking at all these rocks, Sunburst comes in, and they know each other a little bit, not the best. So it's just this cold introduction. They come together, they just start meeting each other, and they just freaking go together, right? They just do things, they just talk, and start to form this connection, form this bond. Like, you can make a connection, you can build a new friendship on the spot. You don't have to have like a pre-existing relationship or a pre-existing connection. All you have to do is go hard and try to meet somebody. And the instant that happens, it's freaking sick, right? And so they have fun, and apparently like Sunburst knows a whole lot about rocks, and so they connect with rocks. They just have like a really, really great connection, and they make a great friendship, right? Why? Because he's talking about rocks. He's talking about what she likes. Same thing with Trixie. He's talking about magic. He's doing things with her that she likes to do, and he's focusing on her interests and Maud's interests. Like, the instant you become interested in what other people do, and what other people care about, what other people are passionate about, it's so much easier. Because what? Because like, people want to talk about themselves, and the instant that they do, the instant you can let them focus on themselves, they transfer the likeliness they have for themselves over to you. And so it's the same thing here. This guy's transferring the likeliness he has for himself over to him, over to Sunburst. And so it just works really, really, really well. And so Starlight sees this, and she still feels left out. She still feels separated. She still hasn't really understood this idea that like he can have multiple friends and still be her friend. So she's like, it's this negative emotion of jealousy. It's a bad place to be. And so as she goes and goes and goes, she gets back to the castle. They all get back to the castle. And basically she takes Sunburst into the throne room and like casts this spell that turns them back into like little babies. They're little kids. And she asked him to play this game that they played as little kids again, because she thought that was like the one common bond they had with each other. Because she just doesn't feel like she has anything in common with him anymore, which makes her super, super sad and super alienated. Remember, like, you don't have to have like the exact same attributes, the exact same traits, the exact same interests as your friends. All you have to do is have a deep and intense passion and desire to be friends with them, which is so powerful. And so she's trying to like force all these common connections on him, and he is just done, right? Because remember, you can't force people. Like, she forces him to be like a kid again. You just can't force people to do that. And so he walks away. He walks away from the friendship, because remember, like, if you want to have like a total and complete ability to have a really, really deep connection, or you want to get whatever you want, like, the number one key to having that is the ability to walk away. Because as soon as you walk away, it's 10 times easier to come back and facilitate, whatever deal this is, whatever connection this is, whatever event this is. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do, if you can walk away from it and then come back to it after stuff cools down, it's so much easier than if you get glued on it and stuck on it, because you can't force people into things, right? And so that's what Starlight tries to do, and she just can't force him into it. So she runs away. She's so sad. She doesn't think they have anything left in common, and it just crushes her internally, right? And so Twilight sees this, and she feels really bad, right? Because these guys are a group, and they want to be friends together. And to do that, they need to have this connection. They need to just chill out, don't worry about it, grow together, and have this success as a team, as a unit, as a mastermind. And so that's really like exactly what she does here. She comes in and she says, look, everyone chill out. Let's back up. Let's look at this. Let's back up, figure out what's going on. And they realize that like they built this whole new group of friends, right? So you've got Twilight, you've got Trixie, you got Maud Pie, and Sunburst, right? They're all come together. They all have this really deep relationships, and they're connecting. And then Starlight too, right? So like Starlight really, really wants to be with everyone. And so all they have to do is figure out a way to include her, and she'll instantly be incorporated into this mastermind. And so what they do is they go to the castle, and they take this game, Dragon Pit, that they really, really like to play as a kid, and they focus on like how can they apply it now, and how can they sort of grow it up. Because like she doesn't have to be like a little kid to enjoy what she enjoys, right? And so they build like this big life-size version of the game, and it's like this huge obstacle course and slides and books and chutes and ladders everywhere. It's freaking crazy stuff. And then everybody comes in to play it, and they invite Starlight. And they bring Starlight in. And they say, Starlight, look, it's not a huge deal. You know, we all care about you. We all want to be your friend and connect with you. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you don't have this like total and complete connection with everyone or share the same interests as everybody, because we all have common interests, we all have common goals, we all have individual things that draw us together, and that strengthens their friendship, right? With these differences, they strengthen the friendship because they all have their individual strengths that create, you know, this pinwheel, right? So you've got like one person's really good at one thing, one person's really good at another thing. And so as they come together as a team, as they come together as a mastermind, they can all focus on what they really love and what their unique ability is and what they best perform at. It's like 10,000 times easier to have huge amounts of success in the rest of their life because they work together and get it done much more efficiently. And so that's really exactly what happens here. And Starlight comes together and she realizes that it's not a huge deal and they still have, you know, things in common and they just need to sort of uncover them. And once they do, she renews her friendship with Sunburst, and it's like the best thing ever, right? And they have an amazing, amazing, amazing time because she has to sort of step back and she can't really care that much. And as soon as she doesn't, and as soon as she like realizes that it's okay and that they can do, you know, new things and it's not a huge deal, their friendship blossoms and they succeed. And it's just really, really, really passionate and strong connection. And it all comes from this newfound bond. And all you have to do is kind of just look under the surface, try to find that connection that will make it worthwhile and make it, you know, just significant in your life. So that's a really, really cool way to expand your influence in your friends. It's all by using this idea of an uncommon bond, which is like super cool. And also like introducing people to new friends, which is like the most powerful, powerful, powerful way to grow that mastermind and to grow those relationships, which is awesome.